kindly. Thank you for traveling all the way and presenting this amazing work. This is a very special film for me. Pretty much all the films that I look at for the selection, maybe they touch me one way or another, but this one really hit me. I appreciate its force, its passion, but also its clarity. And this is your first work. This is your debut feature film. It's amazing. How did you find the courage and the strength and the patience to pull off this longitudinal view?
First of all, I want to thank the people who stayed. I know it's a long film and I think it requires a lot of patience, so thank you for enduring 2 hours and making it effective probably. You said you were going to ask easy questions. That's not an easy question. I don't know, I've been to the Salon Al-Rani when he was working as a theatre, and I was amazed that I used to go to the cinema like half a block from there, and I couldn't believe that for 2 years I've been walking like 50 metres from there not knowing that was going on. So when the camp began, I just stayed there for the whole 2 months and a half. I didn't know how to film, I didn't know how to use a camera, and I think necessity brings you towards knowing how to resolve things that you don't know. I had a 5D at Canon, there was no sound, that's why the sound is not so nice sometimes. So you just learn by the necessity of having to portray what's happening.
Glad you mentioned the cinematography. This is another one of the things that really drew me to the work. It's amazing in terms of the images you're able to capture, but also your fluidity as you sort of move through these spaces, join the events, but at the same time observe them and use cinema and the camera to translate these events for us. You learn by doing. But at the same time, it seems to me you just have an incredible cinematic instinct in terms of framing, in terms of your selection, in terms of your mise en scène. I have to congratulate you for that. I don't know, it's really amazing. Tell me a little bit about Sino Alberti, who was an important political theorist. Is he still thought of and used as, I don't know how much his writings have been translated and spread, but is he still very much relevant in terms of an important political thinker or force in Buenos Aires?
No, it's not.
Not at all? No. Okay. Sala Alberti has a lot of resonance because I think it translates well to Belgrade and also to other spaces where alternative cultural centers in general are occupied and sort of under attack. And I'm sure you're aware or maybe following some of these other stories, not just in South America, but in Europe and elsewhere. What do you think about some of these resonances in relation to your work in this documentary?
You mean, what do I think about occupation per se, or what do I think about how this documentary or other stories can relate to themselves?
How these relate to each other and how they speak to each other and they create these links somehow.
I think empty places that are empty and that are unused or have been used, like the Šesti theatre in Belgrade, that become vacant either through corruption, either through empty, must be occupied. I do believe in occupation. And it's not necessarily common sense. But it's impressive that many, I know people who have occupied in Brazil, I lived in London, I occupied in London, I know in Poland as well. I think it's a movement that naturally happens. People need housing, people need culture. Government not necessarily provide no home, nor culture, nor education. So I think it's a byproduct of resistance to policies of state which are lacking.
Tell me a little bit about the politics of this film in the sense that it's often said, maybe Jean-Luc Godard said it best, that the question is not to make political films, but to make films politically. And I think I get a sense of that when I look at your work and see how it, again, how the images and the construction sort of integrates itself into this political process that we see sort of raising before our eyes and awakening before our eyes. And I love the final scene of the film where we have this moment of reflection, this moment of self-critique. This is very complex political work, and I don't know, I think you somehow figured out a way to make films politically, or make this film politically, but yet you shot everything on your own. You tell us about your collaborators. How did you work together with people, and what way did it sort of mirror what you were showing on screen?
I worked alone, not at all camp. I edited with a friend of mine for 3 years, so it was very long work. I don't really know very much probably how to collaborate, in the sense that I didn't know how to film, so I think it was also my own exploring of that world that I fell in love with. So I don't know if we had a conscience. I mean, of course it was a political event going on. Of course many cultural centres were locked down after that. The film actually is being shown in June in 3 cultural centres which had actually been closed down before I came here. I don't know if you have a political conscience of filming. I think you just fall in love, and as I said regarding the camera, you just find the way to portray for others and to leave a memory for others, and hopefully that experience for others will be relevant and useful.
And I have one other question before I open it up to the audience. You touched on this question in the sense that you're showing this film in some alternative cultural centers in Buenos Aires. We're happy that you're here to offer this film to us and share it with us as a European premiere. That being said, tell us a little bit more about how the film, the documentary was received, not only in Argentina, but maybe other places you screened it in South America or Latin America. How was the film received, and how have you been able to use it, perhaps as a political tool, or as a tool to aid the struggle, if you wanted to use it that way at all?
I think I do want to use it. I think it's also the desire of the people who have been in the camp for it to be. It hasn't been really shown much. I mean, it really says European premiere, but it's more like an international, because I mean, the film was shown in Cuba, but it hadn't been finished. And it was only shown privately to the people of the camp. So it still hasn't really been shown. It will begin now. But as I said, I mean, the 3 cultural centres that were to show it in June have been closed down by authorities, by the same authority that had closed down the theatre, because there is a policy of closing down cultural centres, especially alternative cultural centres in Argentina, in Buenos Aires in particular. So yes.
Can I take any questions from the audience? We have time for maybe just a few, if there are any. Feel free. If yes, I'll jump in with one more.
I'll shout, it's fine. I was just wondering, so she talks about continuing the work. What are you doing now in Buenos Aires? And how do you feel this is going to keep going?
Just my sister shows, so it's not valid. I don't know, I'm going to keep on working. I work with many of the people who are on the documentary. We work in a community TV channel in an occupied building, which is going to be evicted. We're also being evicted from the air, for many other reasons which I want to explain. So I think it does go on. I hopefully will keep on making films. And I think also I wanted to thank you, because I know it was not an easy choice to choose a film that's very local, although it has different resonances for here and there or otherwise. So I know it's not an easy choice, and thank you for the trust in choosing the film.
Thank you for the trust in sharing it with us. Tell me, I'm sorry, is there another follow-up question or any other questions? Tell me, I just want to understand a little bit more about where you're coming from as an artist, because we haven't had a chance to learn much about you. You're a mystery woman in some ways. At least for me, I'm learning as I go, and it's amazing for me. Did you study at film school? Did you hone your craft making short documentaries or fiction films? Are there films and filmmakers that inspired you to do what you're doing? Tell us a little bit about what makes you the artist that you are and that you're becoming.
That's a big word. I wanted to be an actress when I was younger. I think that's also why, one of the reasons why I probably made the film. I studied philosophy in London. I studied acting, I studied filmmaking in Argentina. I did some shorts on my own as well. I think you learn through everything, and I don't think myself as an artist, anyway, just a student of film probably. As for films, I like Frederick Wiseman a lot. I like the way he also investigates the places and talks about structures, and like an anthropologist, and how the structure of a place works, whether it is a government, whether it is whatever it is. I like that way of filming, but I like all sorts of films anyway.
Okay. Are there any further thoughts? Yes.
Congratulations on the movie. And can you tell me what is the name of that song about violence? We have the same one.
Really?
Like the system is lying. You can hear it. It's BELDOCS Syndicat.
Okay. I'll look for it. It's a Chilean rap which is called Subverso. The song is called Donde Empieza? Where does it begin?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe any other questions before I jump in with one more? Sorry. Yes, please, in the back.
Da li će nastaviti da pravite filmove, pošto izgleda univerzalna tema, ta restrikcija na kulturu, to se događa ovdje, to se događa na drugim mjestima, postoje reći o globalizaciji te represije. Da li razmišlja o nastavku jednog takvog filma?
If I understood you correctly, she's asking about in terms of sort of this wave of cultural actions that I mentioned that are sort of creating links between other cultural centers that are occupied in South America and Europe, in terms of globalization and sort of the continuance of this struggle. If I followed you correctly, znači pitanje šta je sljedeće što se tiče njen rad i njen posao, asking
I'm going to follow this story.
How do you follow this story? How do you follow this work in terms of, are you continuing being active in the struggle, or are you continuing to use your camera to sort of affect these this sort of political action and to sort of help push it along?
Well, they all became my friends, and many of us are working in this TV community, this channel TV, which is an occupied building that used to be a bank. And so I don't film a documentary about them, but I film programs for that TV. But we're going to be evicted very soon, and we're going to be evicted from the air as well, which is another struggle that this collective is also giving, the right for minority television to be able to exist, because the media is completely bought by our president, which is Mr. Merkel. So yes, the fight continues. I mean, I think it is a movement. I think most of the people who were in the camp continue to occupy other cultural centres, other places that would become cultural centres, protesting against Monsanto, which is making a plant, and there's a big campaign that is still going on after 2 years. So, I mean, there's no end. I mean, and policies are becoming harder and harder, so resistance must be even more harder, even more strategic, but it will never end.
And what is the situation in Buenos Aires and Argentina in terms of independent cinema, political-minded cinema? Are you optimistic about the prospects? Do you feel a lot of like-minded individuals that sort of share your cinematic struggle? What's the scene like for independent cinema, whether documentary or otherwise, in Argentina?
I think there's a lack of political documentaries. There used to be a lot more of political cinema, as you mentioned before, in the 70s. I like fiction. I have nothing against fiction, but I do believe that cinema must have a social function. And I think that's a bit lacking. I mean, there's wonderful Argentinian cinema, but it's more towards pleasing Cannes or pleasing Lucano, and I have respect for their work, but I do think cinema is lacking in having a united front in terms of the policies, which is almost non-existent money, although it is state-funded, the money is not enough, and it is always through a friend who really knows the state that will help you fund a film. So I think there's a lot to be done in terms of political awareness of how cinema as a social function, and of the people who do cinema as political beings. I think those two things are missing.
Yeah, I think there is a lot to be done, but I think you're doing a lot, you're doing your part, and when we think about Latin American cinema, South American cinema, we often think about the grand tradition of these great political filmmakers, Juan Garcia Espinosa, For an Imperfect Cinema, Solana Singetino, we think about Cinema Novo, and I would like to think that you're carrying on this tradition and working in a very strong vein, and working on something very significant. So for me, this is very, very exciting to have you here. And I'm so glad that you were able to share your film with us and that you believed in us as a festival and that you're not interested in pleasing Locarno, and we're happy that you were able to come to BELDOCS. And I want to thank you again and express my gratitude to you and my sort of humble feeling of this great work that you've done. So thank you very much.